Okay, thanks for coming together. The dimension that the everyday, commonplace, conventional mindset, way of perceiving and way of living limits you to just this physical world and your little environment, your little personal place in it. Gives you the false idea that what there is primarily and mostly is this. And this is the exact opposite of the reality. This is the exact opposite of the actual circumstances, because the actuality is eternity. The actuality is infinity. The actuality is the divine. The actuality is the sacred. The actuality is there are dimensions upon dimensions upon dimensions, countlessly in every direction and on every scale, right here, right now. If all is one, when we say dimensions, we're not talking about far away. We're not talking about 50 trillion dimensions stacked up, because everything is one. So that includes what we talk about as the beyond, as the vast expanse itself. Which is borderless, endless, limitless, and crushing to behold, even in a little glimpse of a little bit of it. So this local view results in you forgetting and becoming myopically concerned with yourself, with your current moment's set of experiences and feelings and perceptions and sensations, what I commonly refer to as self-concern, but I want to expand it to, and also everything perceived, which is very little. You can only turn your head this much, it's not, you don't have a wide scope. You're not like an insect that has 16 tentacle eyes that can go see 360 degrees. But if your awareness was the awareness that goes with cosmic consciousness, highest consciousness, divine consciousness, you would actually, without having to have eyes in the back of your head, you would have a 360-degree awareness. It would just be normal for you to be aware of everything. You would not be limited by your physical senses, and you would not be limited even by your highest spiritual senses. There's even beyond that. And that is a rare occurrence that someone reaches that level of consciousness. A handful in the history of the human species on this particular weirdo planet. So because of that myopia, you lose the childlike wonder that you actually experienced automatically without any effort as a child, where a pebble on the beach fascinates you just as much as the most expensive diamond, where you don't draw distinctions that are man-made, artificial, and that have no reality. You just are open to everything. You just recognize that everything is a discovery to enjoy. Everything is a cornucopia for you, for your partaking. You can have any bit of it you want. Nobody is preventing your actual experiencing, your actual participation, your actual grabbing life. But unfortunately, the so-called growing up process convinces you that it's right to forget and to lose that sense of awe, that sense of wonder, that willingness to discover, that unwillingness to not enjoy. You get wrongly taught that that goes with the childhood phase of life, that's when you get to play, and later, sorry, you have to work, and it all becomes more of a drudge in the way you carry it and the way you respond to it. And the burdens of life start closing in, and even more, you forget, and you become not aware, and you start even not noticing ever, usually, that all is sanctified, that all is miraculous. The dimensions that are supporting your human consciousness, human experiencing, your life itself, the dimensions that are part of the source of your aliveness, with everything that includes, are countless. And if you could right now have the awareness to be able to see them, sense them, perceive them in some way, just the same way as you can look at me, just the same way as you can look out the window, just the same way as you can look at this table. If you could perceive even a few of these dimensions, that awe and that wonder would never leave you, because you would see that it's beyond miraculous. Things you could never conceive of are both going on right now for your sake and are waiting for you, awaiting you, for you specifically, for your actual support, assistance, participation. In other words, dimension upon dimension is participating in your aliveness and your experiencing and even your everyday joys and sorrows. Many hands are holding you. Many eyes are watching you. And many structures and processes are both happening for your sake and waiting to happen when you're ready, when you're willing, when you're able to engage with them, are waiting for your link up. just like you didn't know when you were 5, when you were 10. Just like you couldn't have imagined anything that is your life right now, any aspect. How your body is, as at the age you are now, what's going on in your life, the nature of your thoughts, what experiences have come and gone along the way, and what's being experienced now. None of it, think back to being 5, to being 10. There's nothing that is your life now in any way that could have been foreseen or imagined, because you were 10 and now you're this. I'm saying that to give you a sense of what I mean, that the same thing is going on with these infinite dimensions, infinite number of dimensions. You can't imagine that. Just like a 5-year-old can't imagine the same life at 50 or at 40. You can't imagine what's going on. You can't imagine what's waiting for you. And it's not in this airy-fairy clouds and silver wings conceptualization that most people kind of are prone to these days. It's real. Real things in real ways. But not with the tarnished forms of this planet. Not with the pasted together, cut and pasted quality of this realm here. In the more natural state, which when you do perceive it, will be perceived by you as more visibly perfect, more experienced as the infinite itself or the divine itself, more permeable because more substantial. Substantial in a way that makes this earthly common way of experiencing, the way most of us experience, makes this seem like just a pale, pale, pale shadow puppets in the palest way. No substance at all, no real definition, no real reason to be much interested. Other than it's what can be perceived, seen, and felt in the current level of consciousness, through the current level of consciousness. So we're not demeaning it, we're not criticizing it, we're just pointing it out for what it is. A little on the tawdry side, a little on the cheap side, a little on the fast and loose direction. But behind it, supporting it, invisible to the way our eyes tend to see, is something much different, much inconceivable. But knowable. Inconceivable means you can't imagine it until there it is. Again, the way you couldn't have imagined at 10 who and what you would be and how your life would be today. Not one aspect of right now could you have imagined. Now multiply that by a million. And that's what's waiting for you. Completely available. The only reason you're not aware of more of it now is this pesky self-concern and this pesky limited consciousness that, for whatever reason, most of us are not yet willing to shed. Well, there's a very understandable reason, because it's terrifying, is the main reason. Two main reasons: ignorance, people don't know, and second, those who have even a slight inkling are going to have to experience the terror of that. And the closer you move, the bigger the terror, the deeper the terror. It's the terror of death. And you will have to get to the position of having experienced whatever is necessary to have known the deathless in you, so that the fear of death literally evaporates like the morning dew and never returns, because now you know. Now you know that the real you doesn't die. So until that aspect of the truly enlightened, truly fully realized condition is met, all the high states that are possible short of that, or that don't include that, are simply not enough, even though they can be tremendous, even though the experiencing of those can seem to the person, can seem to their mind, can seem to their sense as if, oh, I've reached the pinnacle. This is it. This is the realization itself. The arrogance always pulls us in and pulls us down. So to be permanently God conscious isn't enough. To be fully heart-oriented and to have developed the ability to go beyond the mind at will at any moment for as long as you like isn't enough. To become completely selfless and to be a compassionate one, the way the Buddhists talk about it, to be of a bodhisattva nature, not enough. All these high spiritual states, all these genuine and necessary attainments, not enough until you've mastered death, conquered death, meaning you know the truth. And it's not possible to have the slightest fear anymore until life and death are absolutely one and the same to you. Those dimensions will remain an unknowable, unseeable, impalpable mystery, more than likely. Maybe a little bit here and there you'll get a little glimpse, but that'll be it. So unfortunately, you're taught from when you're very little in one form or another, and the basic form that now as a intelligent, spiritually oriented person that you probably adopted is that this is all God's work. But that's way too limited. It doesn't include the unknowable beyond and the knowable beyond. It's still in your mind's eye tends to refer to this local and very tiny aspect. And doesn't therefore impinge on you as a very powerful, irresistible, and if you resist it, painful demand that you turn toward the divine all the way, and that you truly renounce and give up all limited vision. So that something can open in a much bigger way as you, in you, for you. So I'm not trying to paint a picture where it sounds impossible, because it's so way up there. It's so intense and it's so diverse and it's so big. Just the opposite. I'm trying to fill in the blanks and paint the picture so that you more and more understand and more become willing that the challenge is very, very real and is the entire and only purpose of your life, and that you are gravely mistaken every second you don't turn toward it as completely as you can, and don't give up your obsession with the trivial. Because almost everything you're concerned with is the trivial. That you give up the addiction. That you're in the state of the addict. You're in the state of the alcoholic, the heroin addict. That you just are so addicted to what doesn't matter, what doesn't count, what lasts a second or two, that you call 90 years. Until you're ready to check into rehab for real. That's what the spiritual path is. Unless you're ready to put yourself in the hands of the rehab and give up everything else and give up. I'm addicted. There's nothing I can do. I have to allow those who know how to help me. Unless and until that is your genuine and complete attitude, you'll continue to be not just tyrannized by the trivial, not just fascinated by the trivial, but sabotaged by the trivial. Remember, almost everything you care about, are concerned with, and put your daily moment-to-moment attention on, couldn't be more trivial, meaningless, and unnecessary until you start seeing that you were in a trance, in a conditioned hypnosis where you are mistaking rocks for jewels, and toilet paper for $100 bills. Used toilet paper for $100 bills. Until you start to accept that your condition is a state of insanity where you cannot make out reality at all. That you are, in the spiritual sense, not the psychological or psychiatric sense, that you are psychotic. Psychotic just means out of touch with reality. Psychological, for the psychologist and the psychiatrist, that means out of touch with the social contract reality. What the majority of us agree is the base reality, but we're talking about the actual reality. The reality that you're in contact with that allows professionals to say you're not insane, you're not psychotic, doesn't even exist. It's an illusion. So until you're in that way, it will continue to be more and more steps rather than now I can see the road. So none of this is not too ambitious. All of this is possible for you. All of this can be in this lifetime because others have done it. And because you're not lacking in anything, and because you have assistance that you're aware of, and you have assistance that you're not aware of. So when you hear this big talk that some of us, most of us, I think, respond to, react to as, wow, that's not, if it's that much, it's not going to be possible for little old me. You have to fight that, put that aside, and recognize if I'm hearing that, that means I'm one of the ones who is ready and can reach it. Because most of the world can't even hear it. Even if it's said, that doesn't compute. Nothing is understood. So that's your clue. That, in fact, it's exactly and only you and for you that this has any meaning at all. The conventional way of living does not accept any possibility of something that isn't meaningless, isn't a triviality. But you're already in a much better position. And you will move exponentially the further you go. That's why it isn't too much, because a little further and you start speeding up, and a little further and you start speeding up a lot more. It starts to have its own momentum. So it isn't just you have to do all the heavy lifting forever. It starts to be more magnetic. Okay. Your turn.
Swamiji, Shama would like to share. Shama, could you go to the cushion, please?
If Guy has a question, it's more likely you'll have to ask it for him. 3-year-olds have valid spiritual questions until they're in a room full of people. So you have to be his mouthpiece.
Master, Kai is 5 now, and he has a question about...
Face the folks so they can hear you and see you, and you can see them. 5.
5.
You're 5 already? Okay, time flies.
He asked me some questions about death, and I failed to answer them in a way that's comforting to a 5-year-old. And he wants to know, he asked me to guarantee that I won't die.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to lie. And then at some point I was like, okay, just talk to Premodaya. So here we are.
So it's very simple. Always tell a child the truth when they ask good questions and real questions about what's real. Tell them the truth. Don't go into panic about he can't handle it. He didn't say comfort me. He said, how can I answer him in a comforting way? He doesn't need comforting. He wants to know. Tell him the truth, but in a way that a 5-year-old mind can hear, which means not at all in the way you would say it to someone 10 or 20 or 50. So you can simply tell him the truth. Sweetheart, everybody dies, everything dies. But it doesn't mean they stop existing. I'm just giving you examples. I don't care how you say it. You'll say it however you say it, but never be afraid to answer a small child's questions, because all you have to do is tell them what you know for sure. Don't make up stuff. Don't give them borrowed knowledge and pass it on like the rest of the world does. But remember, you're the adult, so you have to gear it to a 5-year-old level, a 5-year-old mind. So don't fall into the trap instantly. Oh, but I have to say it in a way that comforts him. Because then you'll feel like you have to lie, like you have to slant it. You don't have to slant it for any child mind. 5, 10, 7, 12 doesn't have to be adjusted. The truth isn't adjustable, but what has to be adjusted is the ability to comprehend what you're saying. So it's much simpler and easier than you think, and then people tend to think. Because it's just be honest, but be simple. And that applies to every real question. Children have mostly real questions and a few irrelevant questions. The irrelevant questions, who cares? But the meaningful questions, what a gift if you have a parent that can tell you the truth. That's what all of conditioning is. 90% of your conditioning is your parents saying it's crazy stuff to you that isn't true when you asked. And it becomes your view of life. If he asks a question that makes you anxious, like, what is death? Or guarantee me this, or whatever it is, that's the moment of your highest parental responsibility. You have the opportunity to tell a child the absolute truth, which means you don't go any further than your own for sure knowing. You don't give him a falsified picture. You don't pretend like you know more than you actually do. You're not required to, and it's a spiritual disservice if you do. So that's your highest opportunity to be the best possible parent, when a child's old enough to ask real questions about reality, and you give the child real answers from your highest wisdom, geared to the comprehension of that age level. It's not hard. It's not hard at all. It's usually a phrase or a sentence at most. That's what happened with Jai in Belgium when he was 6. He asked, because Belgium is a officially atheist country, and he was being taught in school that there's no such thing as God, and that people who believe in that are superstitious, and that our country is much more advanced even than most European countries, because we reject religion and we reject these unscientific notions like God. They actually teach this in the curriculum. It is an officially atheist country. On their list of suspect foreign groups that should be watched and that may be a threat to Belgian culture is Buddhism. Gives you the flavor. So, hearing that in school all the time, yet going home and knowing that his parents are disciples, and knowing me personally when I stayed with them, a natural question came up in him. Well, what is the truth? Is there God, or is, what is this business? I don't remember exactly the form of the question, but rightly Anandadev asked it for him. I think, if I'm remembering right, he may have been able to ask it. I don't remember. But I remember how I answered it. I just told him everything the adults in Belgium say and everything you're told in school is completely fictional. They don't know what they're talking about, and they're pretending that they know. The truth is, there is God. And a big grin came across his face, and he was done. It didn't need a big involved answer. It doesn't need a big explanation for a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old, an 8-year-old. Just a true answer. Because I could say it as my own knowing, there is God. He was satisfied. It didn't have to be fleshed out into all kinds of details. This is the chief thing to remember. When it's a child, it's a simple answer. A word or two. Most parents are thinking they have to give a complicated speech to make it all understandable. Simple answer. Okay? Okay.
Swamiji, Manya would like to share. Go ahead, Manya.
So if he's 5, he can sit quietly and not run around.
I have, so much joy and happiness and love. And, you had said to me, a year or 2 years ago, and I said, I'm really happy. And he said, well, you could be much happier. And what I discovered at the retreat is so present for me. It's like I'm absolutely aware of it, and and the joy that's inherent in me, and how much it changes everything. And I'm so delighted that I'm open. I guess whatever I've done, I'm open enough to see that and accept it. It's such a radical change from any ideas I had about myself. I just see it so clearly. And I'm like, okay. And I also, because I see it, that the inherent, that's the way I was born, that's the way the child in me. And understanding, with parenting, like a good parent would help that inherent being of the child grow and develop. And, how clearly that wasn't possible, and the whole process of parental conditioning to diminish that and sort of push me in a direction that was them, and not at all developing me as who I was inherently. And
So that's what average, okay enough parents do.
Yeah.
What bad parents do is way worse.
Right. And I see that. I'm just saying, like, on the even disregarding the abuse and sort of torture and all that stuff, because that's its own thing. So anyway, what I discovered at that retreat is so incredibly valuable, and literally it's I'm blown away, and I'm grateful, and I'm so full of joy and happiness, and how much it changes everything.
So in other words, you're no longer upset with me for practically forcing you to go.
Correct, and I'm very, very grateful for your support in getting me there. I mean, it doesn't even, words don't, I can't even, words don't ever do it justice, because I flat out discovered something that is more valuable than anything I could have ever found, that will serve me eternally. So, yeah, I'm deeply, deeply grateful for you and for that. And I mean, this is just, it's obvious, it's just one more thing in all the miraculous things that have happened. But I know the gift of it.
So before the summer retreat, you couldn't have imagined it. So imagine what you can't imagine now about what's ahead, which will make this look like nothing.
And I just have such a base level of joy that even, if something happens that upsets me or whatever, it's such a buoyancy, because there's this base level of joy that is there.
So understand that something 10,000 times better is ahead, so that you don't keep reveling in what you've discovered and kind of pitch a tent there and don't keep going. If this is possible, then 10,000 times better is easily possible. But it can't be imagined. Just like one day before the retreat, you couldn't have imagined. The delusion is that you can imagine what's ahead because you have the idea that it'll be somehow an outgrowth of what you're already familiar with or what's happening right now. But it won't be. If you're moving spiritually and advancing spiritually, it won't be. Even in ordinary conventional life, it isn't, but you never notice. But in spiritual life, it's important to notice. It'll be something that is inconceivable to you now. See, now it's conceivable to you to have more joy because it happened. So it becomes literally commonplace, even though it's new, so you're still jumping up and down, but and reveling in it, which is fine. But you have to notice that just a short time ago, I couldn't have imagined this. It's inconceivable until it's experienced. It's inconceivable until it actually occurs, manifests, becomes real. It's important to see in life's experiences, and especially spiritual changes, improvements. It's important to see that I could not have conceived of this as a clue that, wait a minute, what's ahead right now, I don't have the slightest clue. I cannot conceive of if I tried, rather than assume that it won't be much different. Because that's the position of the ordinary is real and the miraculous is either non-existent or far away or unlikely. And the miraculous is trying to get to you. You're making a statement of the miraculous. You're saying, I have much more access to joy in me. A person who has had a very difficult and burdensome and in many ways joyless life is saying, now I feel full of joy. How's that not miraculous?
And the therapist I see said something, that I had previously, she said that I like this low grade concern about having enough, this sort of low grade anxiety based on lack of fun, something to that. But I see it's like this is this thing of like, I'm just like, I have joy and I'll share it, and I have love and I share and I have energy. It's all about sharing. This is the thing at the retreat that I saw. Everything in it's an outgoingness, it's an outward focus. It's an outflowing, and that's 180. Literally, it's night and day. Yeah, it's night and day, and completely miraculous.
But it was there inside of you, just waiting. So understand that the miraculous, the way we tend to conceive of it because of how we're conditioned and what we're told, that for people who don't know, we think of the miraculous as far away, something that kind of comes from far away. But it was just there waiting all the time in you. Okay?
Swamiji, Yogi Raj would like to share. Yogi Raj, could you go to the cushion?
I I started doing yoga nidra again. It's the practice before you sleep. A few weeks ago, and last night I did the advanced version of it instead of the intermediate, and it made me feel or realize the power of the traditional way, because it's the Swami Shivananda's people, and I just really felt in that moment the power of how you've spoken about before, the traditional way, and it made me wish I was more willing for that, but I know I'm not. But you cleared it today by talking about it's the addiction. I feel so palpably the addiction, and I don't know, I kind of resonated with that too, because we were talking about it earlier, where it's like it's so seductive, this whole thing that's going on, that just the thought of the way that actually works faster is not even an option. It's too strong. I mean, for a day or two you'll feel nice, but then suddenly you get sucked back like snap of your fingers. Yeah, that's just sharing.
Well, you're surrounded by it. You're surrounded by the conventional influences in every direction. If you live in any society in the Western world, you're truly surrounded. And you're living in a culture that is more of a surround than any other culture that's ever existed. You're being culturally battered all the time. There's no other country in the world that has commercial messages in every single direction. You can't go into any public space without big screens hammering at you, big TVs and soundtracks. There's no quietness anywhere anymore in this society. You can't drive 20 feet without a billboard. There's not another country in the world that has that. There's not another country in the world, never has been, and there isn't now, where your eyes can't rest anywhere without some kind of cultural or commercial message trying to capture your attention. It's very striking when you travel how the rest of the world doesn't have endless billboards. Because it's so the case here, you don't realize how unnatural and insane it is. In a sane culture, it would be illegal. In fact, in most countries, it is illegal. It's allowed to have a billboard a certain amount of space, and then there has to be a mile in between or 20 miles in between, whatever it is. Many countries have laws like that. This country doesn't have any law like that because it's ruled by the commercial. The commercial and money worship system is in charge. So you're living in the most possible environment to influence you away from what matters. And for what alternate purpose? To get you to buy something. To get your money. It's the only culture, literally, there isn't another country in the world, another society in the world that has fallen into the absolutely horrible, common, shared, universal attitude of money matters more than people. There isn't another country that has this. There's other countries that are very fixated on money, where people are very fixated on money, but they haven't descended into this satanic idea that money is the top of everything. Most societies have not lost the basic human understanding that people come first in everything. But this society has lost that. It's never happened before in history. Even ancient Rome, which was all about conquering the world, they didn't lose, even in their insanity, they didn't lose that understanding that people matter. It's the only country, and it's the only time in history of the world where the cultural base is people actually don't matter. They're replaceable. Everybody's replaceable. They're just a commodity. They're just a worker bee.
Yeah, the work attitude here is definitely very unique, where people who are not generally ambitious or in a line of ambitious work, like what I'm doing, just regular people are still so consumed with work.
Well, a country where money is worshipped is going to be a slave country. People are economic slaves in this country.
Mm-hmm.
And they literally can't comprehend that there's nothing enviable here. Yeah, there is actual economic opportunity that actually doesn't exist anywhere else like it exists here. But the price of that is economic slavery. So people here have the brainwashed notion that in other countries that are, as a national system, not as wealthy, are unhappy, and people here are happy because they have a certain level of wealth, and they literally can travel to those countries and their eyes don't see that those people are actually way happier than the people here. Why? There is an explanation. It's very simple. Because they're not worshiping money. Even if they covet wealth and would like wealth and pine for wealth, they're not worshiping money. They haven't lost sight of the basic human understanding that people matter in a way money never can or never should. So that's why America is perfectly capable of launching World War III, because they don't recognize the sanctity of humanity, of human life.
Yeah, and there was one other thing. I noticed this yesterday as well, with, to preface it with an example, like if you go through something tough in life, like you lose someone, you're out of relationship with someone, and you feel pain or sorrow, whatever you're feeling, it's kind of with you throughout for whatever time it is, until it goes away. But, it's like you won't take it out on somebody in your general life, work life, or just social situations, but internally the pain's there. And then it goes away after time. But I feel, and this was kind of in light of the situation that happened at Mexico where the children got separated, where I feel so many people in the social world, just in general, they're getting angry, but their anger isn't like how I explained in the earlier example, where like it's not there with them throughout the day. It's there with them for the moment they hear about it, for minutes, and then when they talk about it. But then the rest of the day, it's as if it's not even happening at all. Like it doesn't affect them at all. So I was just
Because it doesn't. It's just
Exactly.
it's just socializing. Socializing has nothing to do with actual relating. It's just conventional way to interact, which basically is the intention is to not actually connect and to not actually relate. It's called socializing.
No, but I meant like even like people say they're angry, but the reason I'm asking
They're
you is
they're saying it as socializing. Tomorrow they'll have forgotten all about it.
yeah, okay, so that's what I'm saying. I was questioning like I said, if they were truly angry.
Yeah, there's nothing to question. It's all phony. It's all just talk. Superficial talk. Socializing means superficial.
Because it feels like there's the conditioning that, of course, it's such a bad situation, so I should feel this way.
It's something to, I don't know the situation. I don't listen to the news, nothing. I don't know what you're referring to, but every day there'll be something. There always has been, there always will be. And people have nothing to say that's real. So they simply socialize. It's not their fault that they have nothing to say it's real. That's how they've been brainwashed to be worker bees and never actually relate. This is a society that discourages any genuine relating. That's why now we have this all day long.
Well, yeah, and it's especially on that they're commenting, I mean,
These comments are meaningless, ridiculous, and just a parrot saying stuff.
yeah, because I'm hit with it left, right, and center all day. I mean, it was a particularly bad thing, I mean,
I don't know and I don't care.
Yeah.
You don't have, what I care about is you. You don't have to be hit with it.
yeah,
Get out of it. Get out of the meaningless socializing. Get out of listening to idiots' comments that are just borrowed statements that they think makes them sound good.
yeah. I guess the
Doesn't matter what the event or subject is. It's the same nonsense over and over and over. And culturally, this culture has descended into it and is successfully exporting it all over the world. This culture of avoiding all relating and all human intimacy and just being in the socializing mode 24/7, where you think that there's actually something real going on when you put a picture of your breakfast on Facebook. The first time I saw this was when we were in Thailand many years ago. And there was this Japanese group, maybe 5 20-year-olds. And this girl was taking a picture of her breakfast when they brought her tray. I was in the, the breakfast area in the morning. And I asked somebody, what's she doing? And they said, she's putting a picture of her breakfast on Facebook. And I said, why? And they said, because that's what people do now. She's like, the people who look at her Facebook page, she wants them to see, this is her way of sharing her life. The idea is you share your life by putting a picture of your cornflakes and your wheat toast on the internet. And that's when I realized there's no way, I will never, ever, ever, ever be able to comprehend how people can be this stupid. It literally was a 3-minute thing, and it only took me 3 minutes to give up entirely of thinking that I will ever understand Facebook, what's now called social media, and how people have been, especially younger people, have been hoodwinked into thinking there's something. What social media, very obviously, is anti-social media. It means It's all for the purpose of avoiding relating as much as possible. And my people have to really get that and stop participating. Stop participating in inhuman, anti-human, anti-relating nonsense. Stop feeding the machine.
And this is also the part where the addiction part comes in, where I have it for whatever practical use it needs to be there for. And I've started trying to
So have the discipline to only use it for that and nothing else.
Exactly. So I've been getting better there, but I feel in my moment-to-moment experience that, oh, check it. When I know there's nothing there.
There's nothing to check, because even if there's something there, there's nothing to check.
Exactly, yeah. And
Somebody's breakfast.
So I think the part for the question was like, because of that terrible situation happening, I internally didn't feel anything for it, even though it's so bad.
Right now, all over the world, terrible situations. Right now, somebody's being murdered. Right now, there's a 50-car pileup and there's dead babies all over the road. Right now, 15 countries are at war in the Western world and 25 countries are at war in the Eastern world. Right now, there's not a moment where all kinds of catastrophes aren't going on this planet.
Mm-hmm.
So be smarter than to think, oh, this is the one they're publicizing where I live, so this one matters. And because the people who are talking about it aren't actually talking about it. They're just parroting.
Yeah. So I saw all this. I just wanted
There's no actual conversation. They love to say, we're having a conversation. You know, there's no conversation whatsoever. Don't be so easily fooled. Don't cooperate with the addictive process. My people have to be able to do better, must do better than that. That's falling even lower.
Thank you. That was all.
Last chance. They're trying to figure out what to do because they don't know your name. So what you do is you say, "What? Can I get your name?"
Can I have your name, please? Chris. Could you go to the cushion?
See how simple it is?
So it came up with what was your name? Yogi Raja was saying. But so recently I kind of came.
Are you related?
Yeah, I'm my brother. Recently I sort of
kind of looks like you would be.
I recently came to a point of like having more sort of economic prosperity, and I recently like was in a like a 3-year relationship that finally just ended, so I'm going through that. But yeah, I sort of realized that the less problems I sort of had, the more like just general socialization I was doing. So like even with my girlfriend, like I was sort of having like some depression stuff, thoughts about around work, but she wasn't like that super open, and she started to like sort of like reject my attempts to sort of relate with her, and just sort of want to be in this like socialization sort of mood. But yeah, I was just wondering, or it just got me thinking about.
You should have Facebooked her more.
Yeah, she didn't even have Facebook actually, but
Well, you should have insisted.
But yeah, I was just wondering, as I feel that, and I have another friend that comes from the same background that we did. You know, we grew up in the same like small town in New Jersey, and we're kind of talking about, and he's recently had some economic prosperity too, and we're just sort of talking about how getting into that zone and being in the social spaces there. I'm in like Silicon Valley, like how a lot of the stuff just becomes socialization, and how you can sort of like avoid that. Like I got to go to work and I have work lunches. I was telling you earlier that we just talked, like last work lunch we had, we were talking about like what the different airports are like the Denver airport's really nice. And I was just like, oh my God, like this is horrible. But yeah, that was it.
So in the 21st century Western world work life, and particularly American work life, it's not possible to be real in any way. You have to understand that the system has evolved into don't dare be real, because you'll pay a high price. You'll be ejected. Your economic prosperity will be diminished or ended. You'll pay a price if you don't follow the expectation. And I'm talking only about in work life. So it wasn't this way 20 years ago. It was way more not this way 50 years ago. There's a recent development that in the American workplace or work system, all humanity has been sucked out. Why? The answer is obvious, because that is the holy temple of worshiping money. Work. That's how money gets generated. The economic system based on workplaces. So the American workplace is now a very, very rarefied zone where if you share anything real, it would be used against you. If you say anything that's true, that doesn't involve phony socializing and following the approved script, there are heavy consequences. So you just have to understand that the right attitude, if you ask me, is to expect nothing from the workplace except a paycheck, except economic opportunity. But there's no human opportunity anymore. It's very recent and it can be very confusing. So the American workplace now is kind of a hornet's nest where you have to watch your back, and the mistake is to think that you can actually relate there. You'll have to do your relating, which you should do, which everybody should do more of, but it has to be done outside the American workplace, because in the American workplace, it will not be tolerated even one iota. And that's the reality. That's the factual nature of it. Why it evolved in that way, how that's recently become the norm, I don't know and don't care, but I know it's so. And I consider myself very fortunate to be old, because I'm not in that. I'm not forced to be in that situation anymore. If you're young and need to make income, you're kind of forced to be in that environment. You don't have a choice, generally. And that's just the way it is. So the point is simply to recognize the reality and not let it depress you. Okay, at work or in a work situation, I can't be real. I can't really share anything of any meaning. That just has to be accepted so that you don't have unrealistic expectations or get yourself in all kinds of problems that you can avoid by having the right expectation. So all your growth and all your relating will be everywhere except the American workplace or work situation. It's as cut and dried, simple as that.
It's kind of hard for me, except because I end up getting into a zone where I'm like, I try to be a one-man army and just fix the whole problem. But yeah, maybe that'll be less.
You're a one-man army that will get crushed.
Yeah, probably.
By the multi-million man army. The one-man army doesn't have a chance against a 1,000,000-man army. So don't be a martyr. Don't be a one-man army. Save yourself. That's how you do the right thing, by not becoming part of the machine. You're not going to fix it. It's unfixable. When it becomes universal, when everybody thinks this is the right way and everybody does it that way, there's nothing to fix anymore. It's gone. It's over the top. It's over the edge. It's over the cliff. Once it's over the cliff, how are you going to fix it? So that's your, idealism. But the American workplace is not the place for that idealism, because you'll just make it harder for yourself. There's no point to that.
Shanti, could you please go to the question?
Something that's come up multiple times over the years, but I've had it in my mind now, is that we have this thought that there's some kind of causality in things, and the past causes the future. But I feel like the future is what's causing the present, the call to the future, the things that the spiritual call is a call to a place that we feel, and that's taking us, causing things that are, we arrive somewhere and things that led up to it are not things that we built. They're things that you can see that they were drawing you, they were calling you, but you didn't know it. And what you talked about today, it's so huge. But all the things that precede it are calling, the things that are still huge, but you said they're not even enough. They're not even there, but they're still immense, like to be selfless, to it's I'm saying it in terms of time, but it's like not being in time, not like causality in the way that we think usually. But an actuality that we don't see, but it's actually drawing us to it. I wanted to talk about it.
Good. So the easy metaphor for what you're talking about is a single human life. When you're born, when a newborn arrives, it has no idea. And by the time it's a month old, and by the time it's 6 months old, still has no idea that there's a whole human life ahead. It arrives as a potential, but it's not aware of that potential. The potential is to live out the whole human lifespan, to go from infant to toddler to child to adolescent to young adult to older adult to old person to the next stage of, after that, of dying and going the next leg of the journey. So none of that is knowable to the child, to the infant. That's the metaphor for what you're saying. That's the best represents, in a way we can understand easily, what you're talking about. You're just taking it to the cosmic universal dimension of, that's the situation all the time for every all consciousness, every form.
I'd forgotten, but one of the things that made me think about was that your body, you grow, you go through puberty, you go through these different stages, and that part of life is what's creating the things that make it happen.
Yeah, I think what you're trying to say is you have the delusion that you're doing it. And the reality is it was all mapped out, but as soon as the egg and the sperm got together, it's all mapped out. And everything in existence is that way. The divine is taking care of everything. It's not that God is running the world and running the universe. It's just that God is all there is. So your sense of agency, your sense that you're the author of this story, is your own delusion. And that's what you're taught. You're taught cause and effect. But it's a false teaching, because it doesn't take into account any genuine knowing about actual reality. It's just a way to soothe ourselves that we understand something or know something when we don't. The further you pan back, the more you see that everything is just the patterns playing out. That's what you're talking about. Okay. So when you're 5, you think in terms of, promise me, mommy, that you won't die. But what is that actually? That's the as yet uncomprehended, a little older, and it will be comprehended, fear of your own mortality. First it comes out as, I don't want my parents to ever go away, to die. But what's behind it is the future knowledge that, wait a minute, I'm going to die. I don't like that idea. So until you've mastered death, meaning you've seen enough and know enough for all fear about that subject to be impossible for you, you have no remnant of fear or anxiety about your own death in this lifetime. Zero. Until that's the case, a hypnosis, a trance, a set of delusions is operating, and the spiritual requirement, the spiritual path is about jettisoning those delusions, getting to the reality, getting to the truth, cultivating more and more and more and more awareness, and more and more and more genuine seeing, which is knowing, so that you can get to that point where death can't fool you, and all the nonsense that you've been taught and all the nonsense you've been told no longer is believed. You know better now. And absolutely no reason why you can't get to that in this lifetime. In fact, this is the lifetime for it. It's highly likely that any previous lifetime was not as conducive to this as this one. Maybe not, but it's likely for most people. Most people who find themselves to be spiritual seekers. So you're the advanced level, whether you're willing to accept it or not. Most of us would rather think we're retarded, but you're actually the advanced level. It's almost easier to say I'm retarded than I'm the smart one. But when you start being as smart as you are, that will humble you, not puff up your ego. So there's no danger in seeing that your circumstances are very conducive and you should waste no time and spare no effort to go forward. And I won't be here forever, or probably even much longer. So this is very important. If you're a disciple, this is very important that you use me to the maximum while I'm still here, while I can still be used as a face-to-face interaction. When I'm not here, it won't mean I'm not still assisting you, but this is a unique form of assistance when the disciple is alive and the guru is alive. And you should take it very, very seriously. Okay. Thank you for everything.